This is The Difference Makers, a Paladin security podcast. Each week, we take you inside the world of security for a first-hand look at the inner workings of the industry. But it's about more than just protecting property and manning events. It's about going above and beyond to make the world a safer and friendlier place.
Well, hello there, I'm Diego Viramontes and welcome to The Difference Makers episode 18. For this month, we talk about preparing our upcoming security leaders with Field Operations Manager Ian Henderson. In his 23 plus years of experience, Ian has promoted over 100 security professionals to leadership positions. In this episode, he talks about how to create an inclusive leadership training program, selecting the right people for leadership positions, and what it takes to be a leader. He also talks about the importance of embracing company and personal values and how having different experiences can make you a stronger leader. Well, hello, Ian, and welcome to the Difference Makers podcast. I'm super thrilled to have you here. I mean, we're all super thrilled, but personally, I am especially excited to have you here. I guess to start off, how are you? How is everything with in Ian land?
Doing good, thanks. I appreciate you inviting me on the show, and I'm pretty interested in what you're doing here. So happy to participate. Everything in the inland is good. Yeah, we're fighting the good fight, keeping it going here. So yeah,
fighting the good fight. I love that. Yeah, we're super happy to have you here as well. So let's talk a little bit about Ian Henderson. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? How did you run into the exciting world of security? The floor is yours.
Sure. Okay. Well, yeah, I've been doing security work for over 23 years. So like a lot of people, I got into it because I was hoping to get into policing. So I went to in the 1999. I went to college for criminal justice, and when I graduated, I thought, well, I should get some related experience. So a friend of mine that was in my program, he was doing private contract security, and he told me a little bit about it. So there was training involved and like some interesting stories. So I decided to get into it, and I loved it. Yeah, so it's been a long time. I've done a lot of interesting things, traveled a lot, got to meet a lot of interesting people, and so it's been good. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So I guess now that you're talking about that, how did you run into Paladin? What was your first role with the company? Like, what's your story there?
So I've worked for Paladin for just over 8 years. They brought me on as a security program manager, which is kind of like a junior account manager. I had a couple of years of management experience before that. And then within a few months, I got promoted to an account manager, and I've worked with Paladin in a number of different areas. I've helped with mobile field operations. I helped out with the quality assurance team. Retail, I did a few years with retail shopping centers. I helped out in the training program, provincial contracts. Yeah, so I've kind of, it's been really interesting for me to, move into these different areas and do a lot of different things, and worked in recruiting for a while. So yeah, it's been great. It's a big company. They've got a lot of different areas and specializations, and so I was able to kind of explore those, and it's been really, really rewarding for me, and I've really enjoyed it.
That's amazing. So in this kind of journey, before we get into other questions, in this journey, I guess when you decided to move up throughout the company, did anyone help or mentor you? Because I know in Paladin takes great pride in the mentorships and like people that kind of enable you to get that promotion from within philosophy. So was there anyone who kind of, took you by the hand, mentored you and helped you get to where you are today?
Oh, definitely. Well, I have a lot of respect for Chris Curry. We worked together for a long time before he transferred more fully into healthcare, but he was my direct supervisor for a long time. And so he's one of the vice presidents now. At the time, he was a director, and really liked working with him. He's somebody that would always give me like straight feedback, and he really helped me grow just because he was, sometimes some tough love. Sometimes, he would see where I had a passion, and he would just kind of allow me to pursue that and figure out a way to integrate it into my regular work. So I think he really created an environment where I felt like I could connect to my work and I could express myself, and also I really like working with him. I felt a lot of personal and professional growth just because of the feedback that he would give me, and a lot of guidance, and really enjoyed working with him, and he's really had a huge impact on my career.
So I know you're part of a few groups that are aiming, or their goal is to advance or professionalize the security industry. You're really passionate about it. I know you're part of an international security professional network called ACES. So can you tell me a little bit about ACES and what your role is within that group?
Sure, yeah. So ACES stands for the American Society of Industrial Security. However, they're international now. So yeah, it's it's a membership of security professionals around the world. They have a branch in Vancouver. What they do is they meet several times a year. What they'll do is they'll have a luncheon and bring in guest speakers, somebody with expertise in a particular area in the industry. And so it has an educational mandate, and also there's a lot of networking that happens. People kind of have an opportunity to meet colleagues and competitors and kind of speak in a kind of a safe space, I guess you could say, where we can look at best practices, figure out ways that we can kind of grow as an industry. So at times ACES, the local chapter, has represented the security industry in speaking to the government, and for example, they lobbied for some changes with security programs a couple of years ago by now. But so that's kind of the role that ACES plays. So I've enjoyed the networking aspect of it. I've enjoyed the professional development aspect of it. ACES also has some certifications that are available that are fairly well recognized within the security industry. So one of them is the physical security professional. So what that is it's a course, mostly self-directed study. So there's a number of books that you have to read, and as physical aspects of security work. So for example, locksmithing, cameras, intrusion systems, access control systems.
Cool.
Goes into, yeah. So it's really it was stuff I knew a fair amount about. I worked in the mobile field operations for a long time, so we did a lot of alarm investigations and whatnot. So I kind of learned about systems like that, but this really brought it to a higher level. So that's the one I have. I've got it's called PSP, Physical Security Professional. So I got that, I think, last year. The big one is called the Certified Protection Professional, CPP. So that's the big one. I'm studying for that currently. Hope to get it so maybe later this year, early next year. And then they have another one which is called Associate Protection Professional. So that's small. Anyway, so those are some of the certifications. There's others as well that I didn't mention, but those are kind of some interesting things that ACES is doing to professionalize the security industry. And so my involvement, I'm not on the board of the local chapter, but I'm in charge of the Young Professionals Committee, which is we organize a few events for people that aren't necessarily part of ACES. So people that are kind of coming up in their careers, kind of supervisory, junior management level, and we kind of maintain that educational mandate that ACES has. So we get together, we organize professional development seminars, networking, mentorship, this type of thing. So I've been with that group for I want to say 6 or 7 years. And 2 years ago, I was invited to join ACES Canada, like a national group. And so what I do with them is, well, my job title is Assistant Regional Vice President. So it sounds quite nice.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm in charge of, so basically all the ACES Young Professionals chapters across Canada, we get together on a monthly basis. And we have a call and we talk about what we're doing within the chapters, events we're organizing, struggles we're finding. So yeah, it's a neat thing. And I think it's a good opportunity for myself to again, for networking and to be part of improving the industry in general and professionalizing what we do. And yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Speaking of your passion for professionalizing and advancing this industry, you also do it internally through Paladin. I understand you are very well involved with leadership training for Paladin. Mm-hmm. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, Paladin has a number of different opportunities for leadership. There's a Leadership Development Day, and I've actually recently been asked to take over running the Leadership Development Day for supervisors. So we have a course that kind of explores a number of different areas of competency for supervisors. So leadership skills, kind of some personnel management issues and standards. And so it just kind of covers a fair amount of ground, but it's an opportunity for emerging leaders within the organization to get together. Again, networking occurs. Also, we get an opportunity to discuss some of the issues they're facing. Solutions I can share, with them, and there's some discussion that we have about the role of the leader within the organization, some responsibilities that supervisors have towards their staff and towards their clients, and obviously towards the organization. So It's a dense course. There's a lot of ground that gets covered, but it's interesting, and I'm excited to be part of it because I think making an investment in emerging supervisors is, I think, one of the most important things we can do as an organization, and it really ties in, with promotion from within. And this is, I think, the foundation of it is that we, help people develop the capacity to be promoted in the first place. And so I think this course really is important. And one of the things I really like about it is that they've really focused on having like a diverse group of people within this leadership course. And I think that's really important for the organization and for diversity, that we have good representation from, women and minorities and people with different backgrounds. And so what we're trying to do with this course is have a really good balance of people that are given this opportunity, because I think when they get the opportunity to come to this course, it really does move them forward with their careers. Right? I'm really happy about that. I think that's great. I've been in management for a long time, and it's something that for me is always been important. And I love to see, for example, I think we can say, the security industry, people think of it more as a male-dominated type of business, but I've really been excited and proud to see, women that have advanced and become leaders. And I think that diversity is really what makes us strong as an organization, where we have a lot of different people that have different point of view, and we can come together and figure things out. And to me, that's very exciting. And so I'm really happy to be part of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And now that you mentioned women in security, we've talked about it in past episodes with Anjanette Hebert and Alicia Campbell. We're so happy to see so many women joining what's considered a male-dominated industry and promoting that space for women in security. That's amazing. So you've done so many. You've had so many roles within Paladin, and you've done so many things. In your role as an account manager, and now speaking about the training and how you select people and how you equip them to kind of grow within the company through the promotion from within philosophy. In your role as an account manager, you must have selected a lot of people for supervisory positions.
Yeah, I sure have. Yeah.
What are some lessons you have learned from this experience?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I haven't counted, but probably it's been 100 or even more people that I promoted into supervisory roles.
Wow.
Kind of what I mentioned earlier, I touched on. Like, I really do think that's making those decisions is probably one of my most important responsibilities as a manager, to select the right people for these leadership positions, because they're shaping kind of the future of the organization, right? And not only that, but we're I'm kind of involving myself in the future of these people that are young people that are working with us. So I think it's a tremendous responsibility and something that I do take fairly seriously. So one of the things I would say, like for myself, I've really thought it's important to be objective as much as possible in the process and making these decisions. I think having an objective process is critically important, and so having standardized interview questions and documented all that is really important. But then what that does is that also kind of forces me or us, I guess, to ask ourselves, like, what is it really that we're looking for in a leader, right? And I think we have to appreciate the fact that nobody's perfect, and if we're looking for somebody that really excels in a particular area, we have to accept the fact that they may not excel in other areas, right? And so that's I think a hard process to go through, an analysis to say what really do I want, right, in a leader, right? And what are like my things that are essential, and what's like nice to have, and what can we kind of live without. So, and I think if you go through that first and you come up with, which I've done, is think of like what are my main criteria for leadership, and then what can I kind of live without, right? And so what I've done with my assessment process is I've developed questions that are kind of exploring those dimensions of leadership that I've identified as crucial or as kind of deal breakers, right? And so things around like trust, I think is absolutely the integrity. These are huge things that are absolutely like mission critical. Initiative, I think it's really important. Like people who take ownership of their work, and they're not just kind of show up and clock in, work their 8 hours, and go home, right? Some people that. So initiative is one of the major things that I look for, and that comes up in every interview that I do. Is what are some initiatives you've undertaken, and how are you trying to make this a better place to be, right? And
totally.
And if you can't give a good answer to that question, then in my opinion, not really cut out for leadership. And then the other thing, like I think it's hard as a leader to hold people accountable and to have those tough conversations with people and give corrective action. And so there's an element of courage that I think is required to be a leader, an effective leader. So I think having that moral courage is absolutely imperative as a leader that have those tough conversations, keep people accountable. I mean, that's I think one of I know that's one of Paladin's core values, accountability, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that goes hand in hand with being a professional. Is that we have to have accountability for our decisions and our actions or lack of actions. And so, yeah, so those are kind of the main things for me that I look for. And it's a really big responsibility. And yeah, it is. Yeah.
So for people out there, that's Ian's assessment of what it takes to be promoted, and and that's really cool. Those are really, really good questions to ask people who want to kind of move up to take their career to the next level. So now we kind of know from your perspective what it takes to be promoted, but what would be your advice for people looking to join the security industry that do not have a lot of previous experience, or maybe they just join and they want to grow fast? I mean, and this industry has proven that it's a fast growth industry for sure.
Yeah.
What would be your advice for people out there just looking to join or maybe just grow within the security industry?
I would say number one thing is you have to have a service mindset. Somebody that's a team player and that's willing to make sacrifices for the betterment of the organization. I think that's really, really important. The other thing is like taking kind of a long view of their career is important, and realizing that developing a personal reputation does take some time, and like these things do get recognized, but not necessarily always as quickly as people might want, right? And so yeah, making sacrifices, thinking long term about your career. And so I remember actually when I started the security industry, I somehow it came into my mind that I would make a total commitment for 1 year. I would never say no to anything I'd been asked. I would just do it, right? And at the end of the year, if I wasn't happy with where that got me, then I would quit, right? And so I did that, and it actually worked out really well for me. So I just always said yes, right? No matter what. I worked on my birthday, canceled plans, anything that I was asked. And at the end of the year, yeah, I was promoted. So I was happy about that. And I think had I not taken that approach, maybe I wouldn't have been promoted. Maybe 20 years later, I'd still be a security guard. I don't know. But so I think, back to your question about, advice I would give young people. I think that worked for me, and I think it would probably work for them. Just never say no and just do what it takes to make the team succeed.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's a really good approach, and a really good advice for people out there to kind of have that mindset when you join the security industry. It's just like this full availability and to kind of give yourself to it, right? Like you make sacrifices and those sacrifices pay off, right?
They do, yeah.
Now, you talked about this a little bit before. Paladin has such a unique, strong and rich culture. And you talked about the care culture or the care values, which is something that Paladin takes great pride on. And I think it's an acronym for where the C stands for being curious, the A for being accountable, the R for being respectful, and the E for being exceptional. And I think that's a really cool concept that people really embrace through their everyday interactions and work. So how do you apply these values to your daily work? And I guess, what does care mean to you, Ian?
First of all, I think having these stated values is really important for the organization, because I think that is the foundation of trust. We talked about that earlier, that trust is one of the absolutely critical elements of teamwork. So I think it's really important for the team to have these conversations about what are our values, under which we're operating, and committing to them as a team. I think is really powerful in the sense that it forces you to commit to that, and people can hold you accountable for it. I think again, back to accountability, and it's a crucial element of teamwork. But this is exactly where it fits in, right? Like, I mean, there's no point in us having values if we don't adhere to them, right? And so it's just crucial that we figure out a way that we're actually going to deliver on these values on a daily basis. And then personal values, I think, is important too. Like we have to align ourselves and our individual decision making to what the organization is trying to accomplish, and how the organization is determined that we're going to accomplish, our objectives. And so this is all really important stuff. Actually, I talk about this in some detail in the leadership course, because I think, leading a group, you're the person who's deciding what direction this thing is going to go in, and being, applying values is really important to making, ethical decisions, right? And so
Right.
I think every supervisor and manager needs to really spend some time, self-reflecting and thinking about how the organizational values align with their personal values, and how we live those and how we walk in our values. I think it's really, really important for us. And if I could throw in one more point here, so I think if there's any supervisors listening, I could give some advice. Like, I really think it's important to commit to your values, and to be open to being challenged, and create an environment, a culture at the site or whatever on your team, where people feel comfortable speaking to you and holding you accountable for your own values, right? And so it's very difficult, I would say, to do, and most people struggle with it. But I think it's something that's worth struggling towards, right? I think is incredibly important for the health of a team, that you have that reputation as a leader, that people feel that they can hold you accountable for your values.
That's amazing. That was really cool. Thank you for that. We're getting close to the end of a podcast, but I want to know, what is next for Ian? What are some of your short or long-term goals in your security career? Where do you see yourself? It's that typical question, but I'm very, very curious to see where you want to go, Ian.
Yeah, well, for me, like, I haven't really had like a strategic plan for my career ever. Like I've just kind of. And I know some people do. I've talked to a lot of people that are saying, this, 5 years from now, I want to be here, and this is how I'm going to get there. And for me, it hasn't really gone like that. I've just kind of done things that I found interesting, and I've come to points in time where I just felt like I was ready for a change. And at that moment, I've kind of assessed what was available at the time. Like, for example, in February, I transferred into the recruiting section because I thought that was something where I could learn a lot there. And so, that was definitely a step forward with my career, but it was something that really interested me, and I'm glad I did it. And now I've come back into a management position, but having that experience really, I think, made me more well-rounded as a leader, right? And so, so kind of to answer your question, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now, and I like the leadership stuff. I'm really excited about that. I'm doing some business development. I'm really enjoying that. So it's cool. I like it, and when the time comes that I feel like I've contributed everything that I could contribute, maybe somebody else can come in and do a better job than I could, which is what happened in my last role. I felt like, probably somebody else could do this better than me, just because, I've been there for a while. So what's next for me? Well, definitely I want to finish my CPP.
Yeah.
Like we talked about that earlier. I'm involved in martial arts, Judo, and I'm planning to do some competitive fighting, but I don't know, I'm a little bit old for that. So, but anyways, I'm working towards it. I'm training. Yeah. Well, so that's But anyways, there are people that compete, well into their 50s and 60s and 70s. So
yeah.
So that's something I'm interested in. And career-wise, though, yeah. So I really, really like working with emerging leaders, and that's part of the reason why the ACES thing has been kind of a long-term position for me. I really like doing training, and if I can kind of in any way help people kind of advance with their career, to me, that's like very rewarding, and I love it.
This has been such an amazing chat, Ian. I learned so many things from this conversation. I know that our listeners will be learning a lot from you and your security wisdom and your experience and your passion to professionalize and advance this industry externally and internally. It's admirable. I want to thank you again for being here. Thank you for being part of the Difference Makers, because you are a difference maker, Ian, and really appreciate it.
Thanks, Diego. It was great. I enjoyed it, and thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for tuning in with the Difference Makers. If you want to hear more about the ins and outs of the security industry from real professionals, be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share. Also, check out new episodes on the first Tuesday of every month. Till next time.